Sam, no 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 Sam.
Welcome to Optimal Health for Busy Entrepreneurs, the podcast for busy and high-performing entrepreneurs and leaders who are looking to create more energy and optimize their health while upgrading their brain and personal performance with precision. I am your host, Julian Hayes II. I've been involved with health and performance for over a decade. This podcast was created for the high performer who is unapologetically ambitious, the one who moves at a fast pace and operates with an edge, the one who wants to become superhuman. Nothing here is fluff, gimmicky, or feel good. I have little to no interest in simply helping you improve your life. I want to help transform it. By listening to this podcast, expect to have a body that feels just as good as it looks. Expect to possess a swagger and style that gives off an infectious vibe. Expect to command the stage or any boardroom you walk into with your executive presence. And lastly, expect to become your most enhanced self so you can live a limitless life. Now, let's get to the show. Welcome to another episode of Optimal Health for Busy Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Julian Hayes II. Back at it again, feeling good, refreshed, and dare I say, hopeful about the world. Maybe it sounds crazy. It may be controversial to say, as it seems we're only flooded with doom and gloom on a daily basis. Nevertheless, that's not how us superhumans live. And we must differentiate ourselves from those types of average humans. So, with that said, as we kick off this next phase, this next installment of episodes, I couldn't think of a better place to start than with talking about the current state of the world and how it relates to our health. Now, no, this is not going to be a PSA on telling you what to do. I don't believe in that. I believe in freedom and choice. That's the beauty about being born in America. I believe in dissent. But what I am going to do is cover 7 keys, 7 reminders that you, and myself included, must keep in mind if we're going to operate with optimal health, build an unmistakable body of work professionally, and live a rich life, however that looks to you. You know, I was inspired. I read a lot of books on presidents. Andrew Jackson's home is fairly close to where I live. And I was running one day thinking about a title for this episode, and State of the Union popped up in my head. Now, for those who don't know what a State of the Union is, in case you're not from the States, because we have a bunch of international listeners as well. The State of the Union here is a message that the president delivers to Congress and the citizens of America, and it's typically given once a year in January or February. And in that message, the president is going to talk about important issues facing Americans and offering ideas on solving the nation's problems, including suggestions for new laws and policies. Sometimes they have terrible jokes. Actually, most of the time, the jokes are terrible, and oftentimes as well, at least recently, there's always awkward reactions from the members that are behind the president as he's talking. But with that said, let's get started. Or should I say, my fellow entrepreneurs, leaders, and men and women who want to get the most out of a life. We're fortunate to be alive at this moment in history. It's the greatest time to be alive. You know, we have no constraints or limits on what we can become. The only limits and constraints that we have are the ones that we place on ourselves. Yeah, I think of my dad and the many before me on my lineage who carried the flag to give me this limitless opportunity. And I'm sure if you pause for a moment, maybe close your eyes as well, you'll feel the same as me, and you'll be overwhelmed, flooded with gratitude for the people who carried the flag to put you in the position that you're in right now. Now, maybe it's not exactly what you want yet, but the opportunity and the potential is plentiful. And it's most likely more that they could ever dream of having. I think about even 2 generations before me, what life was like compared to now. And it's unbelievable how quickly things can change. Now, I know there will be some out there. They're going to say, Julian, we're still in a pandemic. But I don't think we're in a quote unquote pandemic anymore. This is something different, something unfamiliar. And that's where the difficulty lies. The game has changed. For a little over a year, we were in this quote unquote pandemic. And during that time, each and every one of us were affected in some form or fashion. We all have scars. And no matter how much cocoa butter you use, it's not going to help. In my household, we use cocoa butter. I think it worked. I don't really know. But now we got peptides and other tech and other really cool things that helps with skin rejuvenation. But before I digress here, during that time period, all 7+ billion people on Earth were connected by this pandemic. We all lost a piece of ourselves during this time. Some of us, the piece was through losing a loved one. This was a spouse, a parent, a son, a daughter, aunts, uncles, cousins, close friends, colleagues, you name it. And what made it worse was that some of us couldn't even be there with them as they passed. They were left to pass alone at hospitals and institutions due to various draconian processes that were set in place. We couldn't even send them off appropriately, as there were rules around the number of people at a funeral home and even at burial sites. Some of us also had businesses closed down temporarily, while we saw big businesses that were able to keep their lights on and further boost their profits each quarter. Some of us had a revenue model, and it was immediately wiped out because travel was halted. Maybe your waistline suffered as you ate your feelings and you weren't as active because you suddenly found yourself working from home and your routine was completely thrown upside down. That one glass of wine at 5 p.m. perhaps got bumped up to 3 or 4 glasses because you were stressed. And honestly, what else were you going to do? Others had their relationships tank because they realized that maybe I don't like this person as well as I thought I did. Or you're simply just going in a different direction. Whatever the case here, our health, in some form or fashion, was severely under assault during this period. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, sometimes 4 out of 4 for some people. But with all of this said, let's turn whatever obstacle that you have or that you have encountered during this period into an opportunity. Because with crisis can come opportunity. And, if you're listening to this podcast, you're doing much better than a lot of people. The game has changed. And to truly thrive with your health, to vastly extend your human productivity and your potential, and increase your human performance, your health infrastructure has to be on point. And this goes beyond just salads, lifting weights, getting sunshine, eating steaks or eating fish, whatever your food preference is. It's much deeper than that. That's one-on-one level stuff, elementary material. We're about something bigger here. It's about a transcendence. But no one talks about this. Aging is humanity's biggest problem. Now, of course, we're all going to chronologically become older. But biologically, we don't have to follow the same timeline. So without further ado, let's dive into this first key to keep in mind. The first key is all about courage. You need courage. Now, hearing the word courage isn't new, and it's not likely to ignite something strong within you because you've heard this word a lot. There's books, there's movies, there's all sorts of things on the word courage. But some of the simplest concepts in life are often the hardest ones to truly implement and practice because we overlook them. We overlook them because we think we know them. And frankly, it's too simple. In business, perhaps you obsess over the funnels, the color of website buttons, and other complex business tactics, when you haven't even mastered the basics such as networking and learning how to talk to strangers. Now, I'm totally guilty of this here, as I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs are. But we need courage in this world, especially right now. Because when you got courage, this comes with self-belief. This comes with having personal power, being able to stand your ground, stand with your principles, no matter what's going on around you. I see more and more people now who have relegated a lot of their personal power and given it over to others, waiting to be given the green light. I've seen many who have quit it. I've seen many who have went against what they inherently believe in order to fit in and go along with the mainstream narrative in order to quote unquote keep the peace. When you go against what you know to be true, what you know to be of value, your principles, and this can be different. Whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you know to be true, this can be a little different for each of us. But when you go against that, you lose self-respect for yourself. And this bleeds over into every other area of life. You lose trust in yourself. You need courage in this world because if you go against a mainstream belief, you will perhaps be labeled. And you'll be guilted about your beliefs. But you can't waver because courage is powerful. Courage is magnetic. Courage is critical if you're looking to separate yourself. On a practical level, I think about needing courage because sometimes you get weird looks for being so diligent with your food, being so precise with your supplements, your blood testing. People can say, why are you going to get another test? Don't you go every year for your annual physical or whatever it is at the doctor? I think about when I started this health journey and I came back and the foods that I grew up with, I didn't eat those anymore. My whole identity shifted. And I thought about some of the flack I got initially. But you can't waver because when you waver, you lose that courage. You lose that self-respect in yourself. I think about this now. There's a clip of Bishop T.D. Jakes talking about courage. I was randomly scrolling YouTube one day and I saw it. And I saved it to my computer. I saved it to my phone. I love to hear it. I think about family who doesn't agree with me on some of my viewpoints. And I'm sure you're like this as well. I think about people who doubted me. I'm sure you can go along with this as well. I think about people who are adamant about telling me that I should do things a certain way. And I'm sure you have some people in your life that way as well. I think about this sometimes when I think about quitting and lowering my standards. This video hits home for me. And you know what? I'm going to play this clip really quick.
It takes courage to be exceptional. It takes courage to be wise. It takes courage to be rich. It takes courage to be educated. It takes courage to be knowledgeable. Because the moment you do, but you don't talk like you forgot where you came from. Look at you talking. It takes courage. And I'm just wondering, in this weak, watered down, mediocre society that we live in today, in this reality TV world we live in today, I'm wondering if there's anybody left that's got the courage to say, after all I've been through, and all my ancestors have been through, and all my parents have been through, I didn't come through all of that just to fit in with normalcy. I have the courage to go after my dream. Is there a woman left in this entire Coliseum that's got some courage?
But what does this all have to do with your health? Courage and health. You know, where's the connection here? What are you getting at, Julian? Well, when we think about courage and health, specifically here, I'm looking at your mental and your emotional health. Because it takes courage right now to not react with all the lunacy and bickering going on. This courage allows you then to make decisions based on logic and reasoning instead of your feelings. Doing this isn't just beneficial in business. This courage to not react allows you to eliminate stress eating and binge eating, because a lot of those issues stems from your feelings and giving in to the moment. When it comes to courage, I remind myself that attack is the best form of defense. On a side note, I do believe that this phrase that we hear a lot was coined in the US around the 18th century, and it's originally intended to be a military tactic, but it's become an everyday maxim, an everyday quote that we use. But, you know, here we are. Anyway, this applies to our health 100% of the way. Another way to look at this maxim here is to be proactive instead of reactive with your health. Don't wait until the blood work goes haywire to lock in with your health. Don't wait until you can't get it up with your lady to lock in with your health. Don't wait until you no longer feel confident in your favorite dress. Don't wait until your swagger is on empty and you feel you're losing your edge and status. Act now. Anticipate and foresee. If you're doing good now, there's another level to go to. Many react with their health. Many reacted to this pandemic and are still reacting. Don't let this be you. Attack the pandemic. Attack whatever else comes your way. That is courage. Now, as we move on to key number 2, think like a chess grandmaster. So I'm no Bobby Fischer, but chess is a game that I do appreciate and learn a lot from. I'll be honest, I don't play it a lot. I always tell myself that I should play more, but there's only so many hobbies that I can pack into a schedule. Same thing for you. But chess is a valuable tool for us entrepreneurs, for us leaders, and it's valuable for multiple reasons. One is that when you play chess, you're actually boosting both sides of your brain. And this is backed by a study from 2010 that appeared in the Journal of Experimental Psychology. Chess helps your brain stimulate the growth of dendrites, which in simple terms, you can think of these dendrites as tree-like branches that conduct signals from other neuron cells into the neuron that they're attached to. When you have bigger and faster neurons, your ability to process information along with your general intelligence will rise. Now, there's another benefit concerning chess, and it's much more practical, and that's to become better at recognizing trends and patterns. And you can further break this down into pattern and object recognition. So we can split our brains up into halves. I'm sure you heard of this. The left half of your brain deals with object recognition, and the right deals with pattern recognition. Even if those things haven't immediately led to you signing up for an account at chess.com right now, there's something else that you can take away from chess, and that's what I mentioned at the start of this key point, and that's thinking like a chess grandmaster. You know, in chess, the grandmaster is thinking 15 moves ahead, anticipating what needs to be done down the road, anticipating what his opponent is going to do. Now, in the world of, finance, investing, whether it's stocks or Bitcoin, which is becoming more and more popular, both require a commitment for the long haul. You're not just thinking about today, You're not just thinking about next week. You're not just thinking about next month. You're thinking about 5, 10, 20 years, and even more. But this is the opposite of how many people are going about their health. You know, many weight loss programs now, they promise to change your life, change your body in 90 days. Now, will you get some results in 90 days? Absolutely. Of course you will. Will you completely overhaul your life? Not likely. 90 days is not enough time to fundamentally reshift your habits and your identity. You can do a lot of work in 90 days, but anyone can follow a 90-day program. But the question that I love to ask, it is my favorite question, is what's next? And oftentimes, it's nothing but an empty void. There's nothing to fill that space of what's next. So, when you have nothing there, what's going to show back up is old habits. And this is why you see a lot of people, some of the most successful people, you see these people lose weight with these programs, only to regain all the weight back months later. This is also why you can see some have a great quarter, but they fail to duplicate the result in the following quarter. Everything comes with a cost. So when you're opting for short-term pleasures, you are often unknowingly signing up for long-term frustration. So as you go about your health and your fitness for the remainder of this year and even beyond, let's pause and reassess and think about where you're going. And think about, is this something that is sustainable well beyond 90 days? Is it a 365-day program? Is it something that is going to fit with my busy entrepreneurial lifestyle? We need synergy. Many wait to become ill, overweight, have the doctor tell them they need to lose weight, have the TV or some other external source tell them they should follow this diet. There's very few absolutes in life. But I do know that those who view their health in various investments as a long-term asset, they do fare better than those who just go with the flow of life. So key number 3, everything matters and everything counts. We've heard ad nauseum that we're in a health crisis, and this is true. We've been in a health crisis, obesity epidemic, whatever epidemics you want to call it. We've been in this for a long time. It's been this way. And, you know, we've done a lot of different initiatives. I've seen there's been initiatives to promote healthy eating, initiatives to get you moving more. You know, there's been all these different initiatives, but they fall short. And a big reason why it falls short and why so many struggle with their health and to turn their health into a positive, sustainable asset is because they lack viewing their body as a system. This is why I stopped personal training in gyms. This is why throughout the years that I've evolved my firm more and more into a full service practice that can address and positively influence the entire human system. Now, let's go through a brief example here of what I mean by systems. You know, I've lost count of the average gym goers and people who prided themselves on activity, but who all of a sudden have gained these pandemic pounds and lost some of their edge over this time. You know, did they all of a sudden become lazy, unmotivated, forget how to eat healthy, forget how to exercise? No, most likely not. You know, calling people lazy and unmotivated, that's a very simplistic way of going about things, which is very rarely the case. Instead, what likely happened is these people were paying, or I should say, were neglecting to pay attention to the second, third, and fourth order effects of life. So besides a change of routine, one of the biggest culprits that can trigger this cascade chain of events is stress. Another way to say this is the loss of control. This is a feeling, more or less, but nevertheless, it is something that affects us, especially those like myself who really crave control. There's a sense of hopelessness that can go around. There's a sense of anger, and there's tons of other emotions. But say you're stressed more than usual, and this can lead to you taking that glass of wine so you can just relax, get the edge off of the day, get the edge off of what's going on in the world, get the edge off of people arguing about politics. You can take that glass of whiskey, or everybody's favorite thing, you can get some comfort foods to feel better. And I did an episode I forgot what number, where I talked about comfort foods and the behaviors around that and how it often stems from childhood. So definitely go back if that is something that is problematic for you. But anyway, all of these things are giving us quick shots of dopamine, quick shots of pleasure to the body. Now, working out, training, it does provide feelings of pleasure, but it's rarely something that's instant for us. When I think about running, those first few miles, I'm like, man, this sucks. Maybe I shouldn't do this today. I'm a little sore. I don't want to do it. It takes a couple of miles before I start really enjoying and feeling good and those endorphins kick in. But that glass of whiskey, and that thing works immediately. So another area that we can use, for example, here is supplements. There's lots of advice about taking these vitamins, taking these minerals, and more often than not, they forget to mention that there's other vitamins and minerals that must be accounted for. They're a necessity to create the ideal synergistic effect. Vitamin D, for example, it's valuable. It's a necessity. I don't want to say everyone should take vitamin D because I don't know your levels of it, but I will say if you are deficient in vitamin D, which most people are, it is an absolute necessity right now to be loading up on vitamin D. But loading up on vitamin D without factoring in K2 is non-ideal. And speaking of the current virus that's out in the world right now, there's some awesome studies around vitamin D and K2 in that virus. Now, I have an interview that I did, and we'll talk more about those two studies. So as you go about your health optimization now and into the future, it must seamlessly integrate with your personal and your professional life. Think synergy. Always think synergy, not discord and separation. So key number 4 here is to develop a contingency plan for the next pandemic or any event that could alter your day-to-day life. I think back and I look over this time. Many people, including myself here, we were exposed in some form or fashion during this time. If you solely relied on face-to-face to conduct business, there was probably a huge learning curve when it came to learning how to sell on Zoom. People who relied on speaking had nearly their entire source of income wiped away immediately. I'm sure some events did pivot digitally, but not all of them. And there's dozens of scenarios that apply to this business landscape and how quickly things changed. Even I had to rethink and strategize on a few things, which, we're still implementing behind the scenes. And as we look at the health side of things, if you solely relied on the gym to be your source of training, there was a long period. And for some, it still might be going on where these gyms are shut down, or there's all these different rules when it comes to the gyms that could be an inconvenience. So what did you do then when all this was going on? I had friends, much to my shock, they just didn't exercise. Many people's routine, it was thrown upside down, and this caused a lot of disruption. That was stressful, which poured over into making poor nutritional decisions. Us humans, we're creatures of habits. We crave predictability. I love predictability. I plan almost everything. I plan dinners just to go with friends. I plan dinners for dates. I plan everything. If I don't plan it, it's most likely not going to happen. But with all of that said there, it's useful to have a game plan laid out, especially for us busy entrepreneurs, us busy, ambitious leaders who have a lot going on. But what happens when that plan we had laid out? What happens when it becomes compromised and taken out? In sports, you go in with a game plan. But sometimes what you had in mind isn't going to get the job done. The defense is one step ahead of your offense. If we're sticking with football here, American football, it's insanity to keep running halfback dives against a stacked 8-man front. I think about basketball sometimes when we were playing, and this is kind of technical, but if we had the guy in the post, the big man in the post, the center, power forward sometimes, and you were always told to front that offensive player, they could lob it over, and if the help side consistently did not get there, that was going to be a lot of easy buckets. So obviously then, you got to switch your plan up. But optimal health now, optimal health in the future, business as well, everything requires us to be agile. Speed, agility, pivoting is the name of the game. Agility, I should say. It's not just a luxury anymore. It's not just something that is cool to have. It's a necessity. How quickly can you deviate from the plan that you have and get back on the attack and moving forward? The gym shuts down. Okay, how can you keep your momentum and not miss a beat? What are you going to do? Think about that for a minute. Face-to-face networking is limited. How can you keep your momentum and continue to move the business forward? You're at home more. That sounds great at first, but how can you stay productive when you're at the comforts of your own home? How can you not be tempted to just snack throughout the day as you walk by the kitchen? What are you going to do? Each of these keys, as you've seen so far, they build into each other. They feed off of each other. Having a contingency plan requires you to adopt more of the mentality of the chess grandmaster. So let's move on to key number 5 here. And this is that you are solely responsible for your health. It's not the government who is responsible. And let's be honest, it never was. And it never will be. I read a lot of books. I've never seen it. Maybe someone can tell me. But no point in history has the government ever made optimal health a focal point for its people. I've never seen it. It's not your friends. It's not me. It's not your partner. It's not any other external source who is responsible for your health. It comes down to you. It starts with you. Living beyond 120, advancing your human potential, advancing your human performance is your responsibility. Your business is ultimately your responsibility. The good and the bad. It's called ownership and personal responsibility. This is good when you take complete responsibility for these type of things in your life. There's a quote I shared in my book, Body Architect, that I wrote years ago, which is still crazy now that time flies by so fast. But this quote I shared was from Rumi, and it states that it's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. And I'll say that again. It's your road and yours alone. Others may walk it with you, but no one can walk it for you. Your health is 100% on you. And I'm repeating this a lot because it is critical that you understand this. It is on you. There are many people and resources available to support you, such as myself, but ultimately, it is you who must walk the path. This vision that we have of ourselves, this is our compass. And these actions that we're going to take, walking down this path, for example, this is what propels us to these new and these previously impossible heights. I think about these heights I think about the visions I have for life, for health, business, relationships, different areas of life. I have this vision. There's people to support me, but I have to do the actions, do the work to make those things a possibility. So some of these heights for you could be becoming the first millionaire in your family, stopping the cycle of chronic illness, ushering in a new standard of health, being a mentor to so many that come after you, carrying the flag for the next generation. You know, it's tempting right now to blame genetics, the environment, healthcare, media, doctors, social media. You know, but the solution, the quote unquote issue, it's all in your control. It's all in your control. Right now in this world, society right now makes it tempting to feel like there's no hope. Society makes it okay to, I don't know any way to say it, to accept mediocrity, to let excuses become your limitations. And maybe it's just me, but I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the people that will come after us. We owe it to the people that came before us to really push for that thing that we really want and not give in to the mediocrity. But there's never, you know, even with all this said, there's never one way to keep yourself healthy. There's never one way to go about a business. You know that part. But right now with the health part, you know, you can feel like that you have to do a certain thing. You have to take certain actions. You have to act a certain way. You have to follow a certain blueprint to be healthy. But it's never just one way to do things. It's never like that. And this leads me into my 6th point. Don't forget that you're an N of 1 and you cannot be grouped into a box. There is, as I said earlier in the episode, there's 7+ billion people in this planet, but there is only one you. There is only one Julian Hayes II. There's only one of us, and that's awesome. We're so similar with how we're made up. But that small percentage is actually a big differentiator, and we got to keep that in mind. One thing that's good for me may not be so good for you, and vice versa. You know, our human body, it's a complex system that we're still learning about to this very day. Every single day, we learn something new, or at least I hope we do, but I do. Every single day, I learn something new about the human body and how it operates. You know, this body is a complex system, and it's going to react to different inputs in different ways. Very little when it comes to health is concrete and universal to all of us. If I eat a heavy diet full of steak and nuts, it's going to drastically look different compared to someone who has the genetic code to handle those fats more ideally. I don't handle, speaking on nuts here, I don't handle omega-6 as well as maybe someone else. My genes are just not coded for that. You know, let's look at something like melatonin. It's useful. It's beneficial. It goes well beyond just something to think about when it comes to sleep. But that's it for another episode. You know, I think about those who use melatonin, and I think about those of us who break down melatonin, who break down alcohol, and also caffeine and different medications. I think about, what about those of us who break these things down much slower? Standard advice isn't as ideal. You know, giving someone like myself extended slow release melatonin, it's not useful because it's going to stay in my system much longer. Also, if you're a person like this that breaks down slower, lower doses are going to be more useful for you. Those small differences make a huge impact. This goes beyond even melatonin. We have estrogen metabolism, testosterone, things like cortisol, inflammation. the responses from exercise. They're all different for each of us. I'm harping on this, but be weary of advice that says it's good for all, because it's just not true. This is why I have no diet, no training plan, or anything at the start to throw at people. Everyone's a blank slate. There's nothing on the wall at first. It's just a blank slate. Just as Picasso starts his drawings with a blank slate, this is how I approach the human body and system. This is personalized wellness. This should be, hopefully, I got my fingers crossed, this should be the approach for health in the future. You go to a hospital, it's a personalized approach. That's the vision and dream I have. Because we're all different. We all will need different dosages of prescriptions at times. Different dosages of supplements. Optimal health in 2021 and beyond, it has to come from a personalized N-of-1 approach if we are truly to advance our potential. Your supplement regimen must be personalized. We have great technology now. Leveraging this technology, leveraging the data that we have, leverage all these things into more precise solutions. I'm willing to bet that you live a time-constrained lifestyle. You have a lot of hobbies. You have a lot of things you want to do. Precision is a necessity for you. Precision helps you move at a faster pace in life. You operate with precision as if you're a symphony orchestra, and you no longer let yourself be relegated to following a one-size universal strategy. So don't be afraid to question anything. So the last point here is key number 7, and that's to control your emotions. Control your emotions, or they'll control you. We've heard this quote before. We probably told someone this quote before. I don't know if it's a quote or maybe it's just a saying. I have no idea. I just know I've heard it a lot. When you don't control your emotions, and we can go in the history books and see that when you don't control your emotions, this has led to war. This has led to divorces. This has led to people losing a lot of money. Now, it's also led to people gaining a lot of money. It's led to poor health. It's led to a lot of things. And looking at today's current climate, just because there are lots of people freaking out, reacting, vilifying each other, going back and forth with each other, being glued to their devices, becoming conservative in their moves, contracting in, justifying why their health and weight is slipping, justifying why they can't do something. It doesn't mean that you have to join them. It doesn't mean it at all. You can choose differently. Maybe it doesn't seem like you can, but you can. Information, it used to be someone's competitive advantage. Oh man, he knows his information. This is going to take him far. But the age we live in now, we're actually flooded with information. It's information overload, actually. Focus now and execution. These are some of the separating factors. I would also add in aggressive patience as well. And when we talk about helping emotions, we think about meditation, different mindfulness practices, and stoicism. I have a heart math device that I clip onto my ear and work on my breathing. These are all beneficial things with emotional regulation. But quality sleep is also a powerful regulator because it balances your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex activity. And there's tons of research on this that you can see when you are chronically sleep deficient, you are going to be more in a reactive, more in a heightened emotional state. And that's simply your amygdala is going to be more heightened, more activity on that side. Whereas the prefrontal cortex, which is more logic and reasoning, is going to be a little less diminished when you have this chronic sleep deprivation. Now, With emotions also, exercise is beneficial as well. I know you heard of endorphins, and so we won't go into that. But something that maybe isn't publicized as much when it comes to exercise and emotional regulation is attention spans and its connection to exercise. So a study published in the journal PLOS ONE, and this was carried out by researchers from the University of Granada, they found that those who do physical activities such as running or playing sports, I'm sure you can add lifting weights in here as well, but they improve the functioning of their CNS and their ANS. So CNS is central nervous system, ANS is your autonomic nervous system. In a little more practical terms here, this leads to higher levels of time perception, sustained attention, and many other important cognitive abilities. Because as I probably have stated in previous episodes, exercising, training, taking care of your body as an entrepreneur, as an ambitious business leader, it's not just about the physical. It's not just about looking good, but it's about your performance. And a big part of your performance comes down to your cognition. So exercise is an absolute necessity and can be a competitive advantage. But not regulating your emotions. This leads you to becoming a pawn in someone else's agenda. Not regulating your emotions takes your focus off what really matters typically. It leaves you vulnerable to making decisions for short-term pleasure while unknowingly creating long-term agony. And I mentioned that specific sentence earlier because it's very true. These heightened emotional states, these times where we start to contract in life, we start getting a tunnel vision for the short term, and we don't think as much about the long-term ramifications for what we're going to do. And this is pivotal for in health and business. This is why health and business are married and they're so connected to each other. You know, uncontrolled stress management, poor food decisions. It's easier to skip that workout, skip that writing session, skip recording that podcast episode, skip even starting that podcast, skip networking, reaching out to people, add whatever other relevant and critical factor it is that you need to do in your life. This is what unregulated emotions can do. So when you're thinking about emotions and feelings, I want you to think about regulation, not repression. You don't just actually hold everything in because at some random point, you're going to become the Hulk and absolutely explode. This is something I used to do. Thankfully, therapy helped a lot with that. But I used to be that kind of person. Keep everything in, and then all of a sudden, at some random point, like a ticking time bomb, I go off. So regulation, not repression. And this will trickle down. When you regulate your emotions, you'll be able to regulate your health much, much easier. And thinking about regulating your emotions, actually identify what is triggering you, what is angering you, and most importantly, why is it doing that? So as we land this ship here, and this has been a little longer of an episode than typically what I do, I want to quickly recap the 7 keys. So number 1 is to have courage. You got to have courage. Without courage, you have nothing else. You can be compromised. You can be bought, and your health will slip. And it may be hard to see that, but through second, third, and fourth order effects, it can slip because you don't have courage. That's a systems mentality. That's what we're missing in society today when it comes to health. We like to separate inputs with health. We like to say it's exercising over here, it's nutrition over here. But these things have to connect. You're in the middle, like a little circle, and all these different lines are coming into that circle, these different inputs. The second key is to think like a chess grandmaster. Think 15 moves ahead. Don't just think about next week. Don't just think about next month. Don't just think about next quarter, next year. Think long term. What's the big play here? Key number 3 Everything matters. Everything counts. Discount nothing. Key number 4, develop a contingency plan for the next pandemic or any other event that could alter your day-to-day life. Key number 5, you and you only are solely responsible for your health. And when we talk about health, it goes beyond the physical. It's mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relational. All these aspects of health. It starts with you. Key number 6, don't forget that you're an N of 1 and that you cannot be grouped into a box. There's only one you. We're all humans, but there's only one specific you, and there will only be one you. Number 7, key number 7, control your emotions. Emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, whatever word you want to say. It's a key aspect of optimal health. It's a key aspect of not letting stress just run rampant. Stress mitigation is helped by emotional regulation. So before I close out, after all of this I said, it would be foolish to think that this process, this journey, implementing each of these keys, it would be foolish to think that this is going to be smooth sailing. There will be times, even thinking about courage, where you might feel like you're on an island. You might have feelings of being lonely. You might have feelings that you're the crazy one to see the world the way it is. You might have feelings of feeling crazy because you're going after this thing that everybody else is questioning you. Why are you doing this? That's when you're tested. And that's just a part of it. That's a part of being superhuman. Average humans don't have as much courage. But that's what you sign up for, right? When you're thinking like a chess grandmaster, there will be opportunities that sound so good right now. And it can provide an immediate payout, and it looks so good on the surface. And only through reasoning and knowing your big vision and what you're really going after, only knowing that will stop you and help you say no. I stumble a lot. I have mishaps daily. I have moments where sometimes I don't display that courage as much as I want to. That's what makes us human still. Even if we are superhuman, we're still human. So give yourself some grace. If you find yourself getting worked up over something on Twitter, getting worked up of what someone says, what someone texts you, we're all human. We all get frustrated. We all get discouraged. That weight, it may not come off as quick as you want. That business may not grow as quick as you want. That podcast may not jump off as quick as you want. That dream romance may not appear as quick as you want. That lifestyle may not be happening as quick as you want. But the pursuit is the purpose. In the pursuit is where you find yourself. Nothing in life that's worth anything is going to be easy. Or another way I should say this, nothing in life that's worth anything will come immediately. Because what comes fast can also just as quickly disappear. So with that said, stay awesome, be limitless, and as always, go be superhuman. Peace. If you are a high-performance entrepreneur, leader, or executive looking to supercharge your energy and become the most enhanced version of yourself without the guesswork, and you're tired of cookie-cutter templates, randomly guessing and hoping the next thing will work, and you actually want a precise and bespoke health optimization and performance roadmap that is in-depth, data-driven, and custom-tailored specifically for you, then my superhuman coaching programs are probably a good fit for you. No stones will be left untouched. Now, it's not a good fit for you if you are someone who does not want to invest the time, the commitment, nor the energy into getting the results. But if you are someone who is ready to start their N of One journey, upgrade their body and brain with precision, and truly live a limitless life, I invite you to apply by heading over to theartoffitnessandlife.com/us, and you'll get the opportunity to talk with me for 60 minutes, and we'll take a deep dive into where you currently are and where you're trying to go, and then we'll decide if this is a good fit for you and me. And if it is, I'll extend an invitation for us to work together. Once again, to apply, head over to theartoffitnessandlife.com/us. I look forward to hearing from you.